Well, anyways, I'll start. Hey guys, thanks for coming again. Lovett Brook, just a form-based code. See, I'm doing this to teach you guys to make sure to speak into the mic. Well, thanks for coming again. Anyone who's new, welcome. Anyone who's back again, welcome back. We are going to be looking at Lovett Brook and basically just kind of working on the zoning that we hopefully will be implementing up there. We have Emily and Paula who will be leading us. You guys have mostly all met them before, and am I in the middle of this camera?
Yes.
About that too, cool. Okay, and on that note, I'll shoot it off to them. Cool. I've been here too long, sorry.
Thank you, Evan. He's had a very long day. So for the record, Emily Ennis of Ennis Associates. I'm here with my colleague, Paula Ramos-Martinez. And we're going to walk you through where we are in terms of looking at zoning changes for the Lovett Brook area. So I will, yes, next slide, please. So we're going to talk a little bit about the plan process and timeline first, because we're the second stage of planning for this area. And then I'm going to turn it over to Paula. She's going to lead you through kind of where we are with the zoning, which is something called a form-based code, and she'll explain that. And then after we've given you a basic introduction, we're going to ask you to come up here and give us some input back that will help us finalize our recommendations for the new zoning in the area. So next step, please. So these are the people that are involved in this phase, and some were also involved in the last phase. We have a steering committee, people from the City of Brockton, including Evan and John. Mass Development is funding this study and funded the previous study. And then the people on our team who have been involved through this process, including previous public meetings and the ones that are coming up, which we'll talk about in a moment. So we are here now. So we had a neighborhood meeting in May. We had a citywide form-based code workshop in June. We are now in the process of doing follow-up neighborhood by neighborhood workshops. That's what we're here for tonight for Lovett Brook. We're also doing Montello and Campello next week, so it's a busy August for us. And then in September, we're going to meet with the steering committee again. You can see we've already met with them on May 13th and June 6th. We're going to meet with them on September 11th, and then on September 17th, we're going to do another citywide workshop and present our zoning recommendations for all of the neighborhoods that we've been working with, except Montello, which is on a slightly different schedule. So that's where we are now. Once we have that workshop, we'll go back and make any final edits that are required, and then start to bring piece by piece the components to the City Council for their review and approval starting in October. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Paula.
Thank you. So what I'm going to do is to explain a bit the process that what we are doing now. Anytime that you want to say something, please just jump in, as well as the rest of the team. So we are talking about zoning, and what we are going to do is in 4 areas in Brockton, we are trying to pass from an Euclidean zoning, so the current zoning that you have, into a more intuitive kind of zoning, which is called the form-based code. So this is what we explained in the previous meetings. And basically, we talk about this is Brockton. In here we have the Lovett Brook area. We will see it better later. What I want you to understand is that we are looking here in the center at the downtown area. And as you see it now in the current zoning, what you have is like big strokes of paint. So very big districts. So where you have some dimension standards and you have some uses that are related to these districts. And so what we're trying to do is to go more in the fine grain, and this, for example, is the downtown. So we pass from something that is very much one spot of dark red into something that is a lot more mixed. So what we're doing is building new districts and applying these new districts into parcel by parcel. So it's not that big paint of a stroke that goes through all big areas, but we're going more parcel to parcel, what is there and what we want to have there. So each of these districts, what they do is they have a similar characteristic. It's an area that has similar characteristics because of use, because of height, because of type of buildings. And so we create those districts and we start applying parcel by parcel. One other thing is that what the form-based code does is also really goes into the relation of the building with the street and the relation of the building with the lots and buildings that are around it. It's something that with the previous one, it doesn't have. I will explain a bit more later, and now we are focusing on Lovett Brook. So this is exercise that we did for the downtown, and we are doing the same for Lovett Brook. And what I want here today in the second part of the meeting is get your feedback. So I want your opinion and I want your input to see these districts and to see if you agree with what we have done. So what we have is a base and we are going to work from it. So nothing here is set in stone. We want to work with you on this. So we did a citywide workshop. That was the area of Lovett Brook, and we did an exercise with them so that they could build different buildings of what they think they needed for this area. And what we got is a lot of, in both exercise that we got from the public representing Lovett Brook, they wanted a lot of mixed-use building, so a lot of retail on the ground floor, residential on top. Some had retail, office, and residential. So a lot of mix, especially along the Oak Street. And then more inside, there was proposed a commercial complex with life science labs in it. What they asked was for a lot of walkable neighborhood, wide walkways, green buffers, and to not make it so car dependent, Lovett Brook, as it is today. So we took this feedback and we are trying to put it into the Lovett Brook, into these districts and into this type, building types that I will explain in a moment. So we are working on this form-based code. This form-based code is going to be applied in another 4 areas that I will let you know later. And we have, exactly as we have in the zoning, we have a lot of different things in this code. So we have, for example, we have at the moment 10 chapters. We have in chapter 1, administrative stuff. Then we have chapter 2, which is the most important because, and we are working a lot in this one, is to, what we try with the form-based code is make it as intuitive as possible and to make it as simple as possible and that anyone can read into it. So we are spending a lot of time on defining and making a lot of diagrams so that it's easier for you to see how it applies. If we talk about setbacks, what does it mean? If we talk about lot coverage, what does it mean? If we talk about open space, usable, what does it mean? So we have the definition, but we also have diagrams, so to make it as easier as possible. So that is the chapter 2. It's very important, and it says how to read any information that we are giving. In chapter 3, what we do is talk about all the sub-areas that we are working on. So we have 4. We have one of them is Lovett Brook. We have Montello, Campello, and downtown Trout Brook. And so in chapter 3, we have all the important maps that are related about these areas. We describe them. We give what we want from them, what is the expectation, and we explain all these maps. So the form base, all the districts, the heights, everything is going to be in the chapter 3. Then in chapter 4, we have synthesized information about all these districts, so the dimension standards, the uses, the components, and in this one we have in synthesized, so it's all tables, so that it's easier to find information. And then we have chapter 5, 6, 7, and 8 to describe very well the districts and all the building types that are in these districts, that are permitted in each of the districts. Then we have Chapter 9, building components. Building components is you have the type, the building type, you have the main massing of the building, and then you have components that you can add. And this is, I have my house, and I can add a porch, I can add a dormer, I can add a lateral addition. All these things are components, and by each type of building, we have which ones are permitted. And so we describe them and we give dimensions. And in the Chapter 10, we have development standards, so like bargain and so on. This is just a structure of how it works, so that when you see it, you can understand it better. But this is in what we are working on the draft that you will see on the 17th, so this will be a lot clearer on the 17th. So these are the sub-areas we're working to. This is not going to be in the whole city applied. This is only going to be applied in these 4 areas: Lovett Brook, Montello, downtown Troutbrook, and Campello. So we have here Lovett Brook. This map, you can check in the Google Map area. There we have the subdivisions of the parcel, so you can always look into that to see here where it's located. But mainly we have Oak Street in this side, and then the North Pearl Street in this side. So this is where the hospital goes, and well, we will see it. This is the gas station. And so if then you need help to visualize it better, there is the Google map with the same boundaries so you can see it. So what we have done is Lovett Brook, it's not as easy because it has this very big area where the hospital is. So it does look a lot like the big district as we had before, but it's mainly because this is a very big area that is a lot in the middle. But what we try to do is to have as much flexibility as possible. So what you're going to see is mainly the districts that we're using is mixed use 1 and 2. So the big, the more into, oh, sorry, yes, they told me this could happen.
It's all right, I've done it 20 times.
And so what we can see is that next to Oak Street, what we are going to have is this mixed use 1. More inwards the boundaries, we have mixed use 2. I will explain what is the difference between both. And then in this corner we have the CP. I will explain also why we have that. So we have these 3 districts in Lovett Brook. So we're going to go one by one. Yeah. So each district, how it works in here. So in the current zoning that you have one district, and then what you have is standards, dimensional standards, uses, etc. So what we have now, it's a bit different. So we have a district and then different building types that are permitted in that district. And each building type has a different set of dimensional standards and other things, but it's more by building type and not by entire district. What this gives us is a lot more flexibility. So for example, if I have my parcel, which is residential 1 at the moment, I have one set of dimension standards. That's it. That's current zoning. In the form-based code, what I'm going to have is 3 different building types. So I can have a dwelling, detached dwelling unit, I can have a duplex, or I can have 3 dwelling units. And depending on which one, I have different dimensional standards. So this is, it makes easier to not be non-conforming. It makes easier that one of the building types is probably going to fit. So you are able to build more likely than with the current zoning that you have. So this is what I explain about having a lot of diagrams and try to be very much visual in explaining all these things. So for example, this is the, for one of the building types that we have, for example, this is residential district, so you wouldn't have this one in Lovett Brook, but it's just to explain how the building types work. And so we have, for example, we always divide it in 3 parts. The first one is to describe the building type. So we always have where on the districts this building type is permitted, a small definition, a lot of reference images so we know, you can easily see it with very different typologies and styles, so it's easy to recognize. All these building components that are allowed on those, on that building type. And then on the second part, we have how the parcel or how this building type relates to the street. And so we are going to have the lot coverage, and we are going to have how the minimum lot width, sometimes you have the minimum lot depth, and then we have some parking setbacks. We also have how the building it's going to land on the lot, and this is going to tell us all the setbacks that we have, so the front setback, side setbacks, and rear setback. The third part is more about the building itself. So is how big the mass of the building can be. Sometimes we have maximum or minimum building width, sometimes we have only the build out, so how much percentage of that facade can be built. And then the types of roofs, and then the last one is more about the openings that that building at least has to have, percentage openings, so windows, doors, etc. So this is all the information that we have per building type. What we're going to see now is in your district. So we are saying that this part just next to Oak Street is going to be mixed use 1. What we have, the building types that are allowed in mixed use district 1 is apartment condo building, so this typology. We have mixed use building, so it can be retail, commercial in the ground floor, and then residential on the upper floors. And then we have commercial building. So this is called mixed use district. This means that we have a mix of uses in this district. We have residential, and we can have only residential, and that is the apartment building typology. We can have a mix, so that we have the commercial and the residential in one building, and then we have the only commercial. In this district also applies a certain height maximum, and that is 3 or 4 stories maximum height. And that's why we are placing next to Oak Street the lowest high typology buildings. Then we have the misuse district 2. The difference from 1 and 2, you can already see it in the images, is higher density. So we're going to have higher stories. So this one is from 5 to 6 stories maximum. What we have is the apartment condo building. This is the same as before, but 5 or 6 stories height. Mixed use building, but it's so same typology, but with higher, so 5, 6 stories. Commercial building, same 5, 6. And then we add a new one to this area, which is the lab building typology. And this is mainly life science, that in here we're trying to have some manufacturing, some prototyping, kind of light industrial, but it's small, that can happen in Lovett Brook. And so you see where these building types are applied. And then finally we have this small corner here, where the gas station is at the moment. And so by now we want to keep it, and so that's why we have to, in this corner, go for the commercial business district, so it allows that use. But we can talk about this. And so in commercial district, what is allowed in here are these typologies. This is the box building, is your typical big grocery store, like for example Whole Foods or Walmart. Then you have the street commerce. This is your typical, how do you define this one? The longest street mall kind of building type. And then accessory retail is the typical Starbucks that you see. It's called also pad commercial. And these, we don't want to call it that way because we don't want this to be alone. We want this that is an accessory to any of these two. So it has always to be accompanied by any of these two. So it's not wandering around. And mainly, this is something that I want to get from you. These are the building types that we are only locating in here because of this use of the gas station thing. But we can talk about if we want any of this in this area.
Actually, sorry,
yeah.
wrap up, but before you start the activity, I want to jump in.
I'm going to start with it.
No, would you jump in? Yes. So what Paula has done is given you an awful lot of information. I promise you there's not going to be a quiz on this, but when we get to September 17th, we wanted you to have an idea of what the structure of the zoning was going to look like. It's really important to understand with zoning that zoning gives property owners an option. So you see the changes that we're going to ask you to comment on, potential changes I should say. This is just what we're thinking about at the moment. It's why we want your input today. But always remember that with a zoning change, a property owner can choose to take advantage of that zoning change, but they don't have to take advantage of the zoning change. Paula mentioned a couple of terms that we have been thinking about. One of them is non-conforming. Non-conforming is when there's an existing use or building on a lot and it doesn't match the current zoning. We know that's true today of this area. And the problem with being non-conforming, it means that anytime you want to do something, you're going to have to go through a different set of hurdles to get that done. And so part of our goal is to say, as Paula said, with the flexibility, can we make some of these non-conforming conforming? The other thing is, can we open up some opportunities for some of the property owners in this area to do something different? And what should that be? And so with that, I'm going to turn it back over to you. So just know we're giving you some familiarity with what you're going to see on the 17th in terms of the proposed draft there, so you understand the structure. But now, really focusing on Lovett Brook and the activities that Paula's going to describe.
Yes, thank you. So we have 3 activities. You can choose, you don't have to do them all, but we really welcome you in doing so. We have 3 things. So the first one is about the districts and the type buildings. So we have here the map of the districts. Whatever you want to comment on it, whatever you think we should know, you can write it on the post-its and paste it in here. But what we want to do in this activity is here you have stickers of the type buildings. So you have by the ones that I showed before, so the apartment, condo, mixed-use building, commercial building, and you can just take the sticker and put it in whatever you think that typology should go. So we really welcome you to do that. It's really helpful. Another thing is that we have all the table of uses for each of these districts. So there are different, all the uses that you see here, and you might want to see some, and so we invite you to just use the green one and just put the check. So sorry, the green check on it. Or something that you really don't want to see in here, you can use the pink one and just cross it. So welcome to do it. And we have the uses per district. So you will see it here, mixed use 1, 2, and the CB, and the things that you want to see, just check, and otherwise just cross. And then we have the last one, which I really think it's very important. And this is what we call incentive zoning. I really don't want to go in there because I already gave you a lot of information, so I really don't want to go more. But the thing is that when somebody wants to build something, and let's say that they want to go a bit higher or a bit more dense than what is permitted at the moment, what we can do is have some kind of incentive zoning so that if they want to do that, they would have to give back something to the community. So they will have to build certain kind of amenities. They can also give some percentage for affordable housing, or there are many different kind of bonuses that they could do for the community. And so what we have here are a lot of images for different amenities. What I wanted to do is to give a green sticker to the ones that you would really love to see in this area, in Lovett Brook, or the orange sticker for the ones that you think, really, this one we don't need. So there are many that are like sitting areas, terrace areas, water fountain, playgrounds, and they have different styles. Sometimes, for example, for the playground, I have 3 different images, so you can put the sticker if you think that you need playgrounds in the area, which style you like the most. So there are gardens, there are accessible green roofs. We have obviously the brook restoration. So whenever a developer wants to build and think, I could do 8 stories high, obviously it has to be according to design guidelines and everything. But if we see that it's possible, then they would have to build something for the community. And I would love you to just choose what you want, so it can be more, more explicit for this community.
Targeted.
Yeah, targeted, that was the word. So please come on in and enjoy.
Absolutely.